So this video is really talking about my autism, my trauma, my sex life, and how those things get in the way of that, and my struggles within the gay community, which is a predominantly sex-focused community. I've already recorded this once, and then my live, for some reason, I'm thinking, oh, I'll do live streams because it'll make my life easier. Well, it didn't save it for some reason, or my internet didn't work. So here's round 2 of this video, and this is probably the most traumatizing video. So I'm sad that I have to redo it. I'll try to keep it a little bit shorter. My life has been really fucked up. 3 generations of sexual assault. You know, my grandmother, my mom, and me have all suffered from sexual assault. And so it really makes things difficult when you're having sex. I was brought into that realm, I think, way too early. You know, I was 5 years old, 5, 6 years old, when my mother introduced me to sex, or her boyfriend did, I should say. This year and a half, year or so that I remember is probably the hardest time in my life, the most traumatizing. There's, you know, this one incident that I'm going to get to that really has, I have never healed from it. But to get to the point, my mom, you know, I was born homeless. My mom was in and out of boyfriends and her moms and all over the place trying to raise me for the first 5 years. Things weren't going very well. She met this guy and she decided to move out of London to West Lauren and get me out of school, in the middle of school or whatever, halfway through school, in grade 1, and move in with this guy that she just met. And he's fixing up this apartment, this house, whatever, in West Lauren, and it's really run down. There's like holes in the floor. There's like bugs and bats inside the house, and it's crazy, disgusting. And we move into this place in West Lauren, in the middle of nowhere, and immediately things went downhill. I didn't have my own bedroom, nor did I have my own bed. So like 5, 6 years old, having to share a bed with your mom and her boyfriend, sort of already going downhill from there. And it obviously didn't stop at just sleeping. They partied a lot. My mom was doing a lot of cocaine with him at the time. He was doing a lot of cocaine. I could never sleep at night. Even if I did get a chance to fall asleep, by the time they would get to bed, or, you know, the party would get loud and I'd wake up, and then it would be very difficult for me to get back to sleep. And I missed the bus a lot because of them. And I was punished for that severely, for missing the bus, because I slept in. But the worst part of all of that was that, you know, and I really don't know if this was consensual or not, or what kind of condition my mom was in. Like she feels awful about what happened, but I don't know what the truth is really. But needless to say, my mom and her boyfriend at the time would have sex in the same bed as me, like right beside me. And it wasn't just like every now and then, it was like quite often. And I just remember this one night that like I needed her a lot, like, but I never wanted to interrupt whatever was going on because it was quite scary, and like I didn't know what was going on, like sleeping in a queen size bed, and you're on one edge as a 5, 6 year old, and then your mom and her boyfriend that you don't like beats you is like having sex beside you. And I had this asthma attack one night and I really needed her help. And I remember asking her if she could help me. And like I asked her if I had I told her that my back was really itchy because I was having like an allergic reaction to something. And I remember like just my back and my throat burning and like I couldn't breathe. And she started to scratch my back, and then slowly, as she's still having sex, God forbid she stop, she like dug her nails into my back, and I screamed and ran out of bed. And after that, I never asked them for anything again. In that moment, it traumatized me for life, that moment. And from there, I just kind of really just stayed at the edge of my bed and waited for it to end. I rarely could sleep. I missed my bus a lot. And then the punishment for that, if I missed my bus, then this asshole would have to drive me to school. And, he would drive me down some dirt road on the way to school, and he'd pull my pants down outside the van and then whip me with his belt until I pissed my pants. And like he wouldn't stop until I pissed my pants. Like I couldn't even sit for that day. Like for the most part of that experience, a lot of what happened to me, a lot of my memories are of being beaten up unfairly, and having to deal with that sexual crap that was constantly going on. And he beat me up for anything. It wasn't just missing the bus. If I walked up the stairs too loud, if I drank my milk too loudly, there was always something that he could use against me, that he didn't like, that I needed to do better. And it didn't matter to my mom. I begged her to leave, and I begged her to stop sometimes. And I don't think she was quite there. I think maybe she had checked out, or maybe she was under the influence of something. Part of me thinks that, he forced that sex on her beside me, because there were a lot of really terrible things that he did to her afterwards as well. Like taking the parts out of her car so that she couldn't get out, she couldn't leave. And he beat my mom up a lot too, and forced her into doing things. So it is questionable whether or not it was like my mom's choice to do what she did in bed, or if, she was being forced by him. And so that was sort of my first experience with sex. And of course, as I grew up, I had a lot of questions about that year in my life. And I asked my mom about sex. I asked other people about sex. It didn't seem like something that was fun for me, though. It definitely was more of a nightmare experience to me. And it's something that I couldn't understand, even though people told me it's like what people do when they're in love. And I just I couldn't figure out how someone could do what they did to me while they were in love. So I already had a really difficult time understanding love and sex and, relationships from 7, 6 years old, But I still asked questions when I could, and I feel like I grew up really fast. I was kind of the one in school that knew all of the answers. And topics on sex before everybody else. I was like the 18 rated, grade 3, grade 4. I had a raunchy perspective on life just because of where I came from, and that sort of made me popular up until, grade 4, grade 5. And kids started to get a little bit older and started to notice, I think, my differences and my feminine behavior. And so like by grade 6, I was no longer cool. I was, some really, really feminine. Nobody wanted to talk to me. Everybody called me a faggot. I was bullied, beat up a lot, and things were taken from me. And from grade 6 to grade 8, I was just, existing, I guess. I didn't really know what else to do. I just went to school. I tried to get my marks. I hid from my mom. She had left that guy by that point, by the way. Like, she left that guy by the time I was in grade 3. We lived with him in West Lauren for a year, and then she tried to make things work again for like a year or so after that, and then finally he disappeared, and then she was alone, and then and she met another guy in grade 6 who was pretty good. I didn't have any of that other bad experiences with that relationship, so like, other than them fighting between each other, but that was kind of normal for me. And I didn't really have any friends, didn't have any girlfriends. I kept to myself and played video games pretty much from grade 6 to grade 8. And then grade 9, I started to explore. People kept telling me that I was gay, and I was afraid. I didn't want to be gay. Everybody thought that being gay was a horrible thing. So I didn't want that. So I started dating girls. I was pretty cute in grade 9. And I managed to become friends with a really good-looking guy in grade 9. He played volleyball, so we were friends. And he got all the girls, and I got all the girls. And so we both looked like male whores, except I wasn't fucking any of them. He was, but I wasn't. What was happening with me was that I just wanted a girl on my arm in grade 9 to prove to everybody that I liked girls. And I do. I really, I was also not able to perform though. And so what would happen is I'd be dating a girl for like a couple weeks, and then, they wanted to go downstairs and play with each other. And I would always get extremely overwhelmed. And I would date these women in grade 9 until they wanted to have something further, like more than just kissing. And I would tell them that I'm not really into them anymore. And then I'd find a new girlfriend, because that's sort of how I dealt with it. And it went on for all of grade 9. I just went from one girl to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Everybody in the school thought I was having sex with all these girls, but I wasn't. Even if I said I wasn't having sex with them, like, the people in school still were like, oh yeah, sure. And it was really hard to sort of prevent this narrative of people thinking that I'm gay, and not hurting all of these people. And so like, I didn't want all of these rumors to get started, but there were clearly a lot of rumors about me going around saying that, I get more pussy than a toilet seat and things like that. Meanwhile, I'm not interested in that at all. Like, I really just wanted a relationship that I could take it slow with. And I was, I'm autistic, and I didn't know at the time, but I knew that there was something wrong with me. I knew that I had difficulties with the idea of sex because of my past, and I knew that there were a lot of issues that I couldn't really figure out. So, a lot of rumors went around about me. RMC, the Regina Money Catholic College that I was going to, there was this one situation where I went out to smoke a joint with this girl I was dating at the time on the football field, and she like ties my shoe. And I don't know why, but like we're just smoking a joint on the football field at lunchtime. And she ties my shoe, and she ties the other one. And then as we're walking back to the pit, like the smoking pit, the entire school is like, yo, how she got hit on the football field on senior's day by a senior. And I'm just like, no. Guys, like she was just tying my shoe, and everybody was just like, oh yeah, sure she was. Good one, has she? And I'm just like, oh my God, that just made it worse. Like, and they really fucking believed that she was sucking my dick on the football field. Within 2 more periods, by the end of that day, every single person in the school thought that I was getting head on the football field on senior's day by a senior. Not true. I'm still known to this day by some people at that school as that guy who got head on the football field, like that Niner. And it really bothered me, and it really hurt her, the girl that I was seeing. Like I didn't know what the fuck to do with that. Everything exploded. My school was not very happy with me. They almost tried to expel me. They wouldn't even believe me that like she was tying my shoe, and it was horrible. Like, and all I was trying to do was to just try and figure out sex very slowly, but everybody wanted it a lot faster than I was willing to give. So I just kept, passing to the next girl. At the end of grade 9, well, yeah, I forgot to tell you, like, so I was also like sexually assaulted in the summer of grade 8, between the summer of grade 8 and grade 9 by the the Memorial Boys and Girls Club. I knew that something had happened. This guy that I talked about it another time, but a reason why I have such issues with sex is because this guy or whatever that I was volunteering with to get my community hours up for school took advantage of me. I didn't really know at the time that people could drug people for like anything that they wanted to do. Like a lot of the context of what happened to me at that sexual assault didn't really come to clarity until I got older and started to understand what people do. And then you start making the connections of where he took me and how that happened. But I knew that something was wrong at the time. He went up my shirt, I passed out, and he was touching me in inappropriate places as I was falling asleep. And then it was very uncomfortable when I woke up many hours later. So right into grade 9, I had that. I didn't really know what to think of it at the time. I just tried to act like nothing happened, and like I just like pretended that everything was okay. But I know that it did damage me just because like the uncertainty of what that was, and unsure if it was okay, and I was scared to tell anybody. And so like having that going into grade 9 and being bullied and then trying to make myself look good by getting all these girlfriends, which ended up making me look worse in the end. And then like by the end of grade 9, like I had no idea what to do. And then I met this girl who became my friend first. We were just friends. Like her mom would buy me cigarettes. She went to school with my best friend, and so we were all just friends. And we were friends for like a few months. And then she made a move on to me. And, I at this point in my life, I was already like, no, I'm done with girls. I'm done with dating. I'm done with guys. I don't want to hurt anybody else's feelings. I explained to her like some of the complications that I had. That's why I was like, um, I don't want that kind of relationship anymore. Like grade 9 was really hard for me. And it was the summer going into grade 10 that she hit a move on me. And I was like, okay. And she was really patient. She was like, no, we don't have to do anything. She's like, I really like you, Aaron, and we can take as long as you need. And so we did. And we dated. I was only pleasing her for like 8 months. Okay. So, we were together for almost 5 years. For the first 8 months of that relationship, I could not get an erection. And it wasn't because I wasn't turned on, because I thought I was very much turned on by her, but because of my trauma, and this I didn't know at the time, but because of my traumas, my autism, being overstimulated, and all of those things, I could not perform. And I realized that after 8 months, when I really fell in love with her, and I felt safe, I felt like I trusted her completely. I knew that she really, really liked me inside and out, and I felt safe. And when that happened, which took about 8 months of dating and really just me not doing well and her just being okay with it and never making a problem out of it, I finally just accepted that she accepted me for who I am. And I fucking finally got an erection after 8 months. And it was because I loved her and she loved me and I felt safe. And I didn't really understand it at the time like I do now, today in my life. Back then, I thought, oh, I just had like ADD or something, and I got distracted and I couldn't keep my dick up because like that. And it had a lot more to do with that, and you don't really figure things out until you get older, but that was a problem. And we both had sexual traumas in the past. So her and I both had traumas from sexual assault. And I'm not too sure if she, I can't remember if I ever told her about what happened. I'm pretty sure she knew about what happened with my mom. But she never knew about the other ones. And she had a lot of compassion for me because we both came from really abusive families. My mom was, not the best. She basically started drowning her life after that asshole and not able to cope from everything that happened. And same with my girlfriend's mom. Like both of our moms were really destructive. And so we kind of used each other as an escape. And then we got an apartment together on our own. We moved out. I get into what all that happened there in my family video, but we moved out. We were still having amazing sex. Like Sarah and I, after I fell in love with her, I had the best sex in the world, and I just thought I was going to marry her. I didn't really think anything else of it. I knew that I was bisexual. But like I really loved her, and yeah, we had a lot of hard times, and there were a lot of really bad things that happened to us that slowly sort of pushed us away into a different area. And I eventually came out to her, and like after we were clearly not going to be together anymore, there were a lot of fights that we had. A lot of things that happened to me trying to keep the apartment together that I could not live with, that was both destroying me and her in the relationship. I was also sexually assaulted by my landlord at the time while having a girlfriend because I was behind in rent. And he used my arrears to coerce me into having anal sex with him. And it was only once, but it fucked me up forever. Like, I can't explain the bullshit that happened before and after that occurrence too, or like how much I had to deal with, or having to hide it from Sarah and not know how to explain my anger to her, or all of my pain of what happened. I never wanted to. We talked about like me going off and having like a relationship, or not to have a relationship, but like Sarah and I, when we were together, like she was bi and I'm bi, and we had threesomes before, and we always talked about bringing a guy in, but it was like someone that I wanted, you know, like my first time, my dream first guy was like Ryan Philippe, not some 50-year-old man. So I didn't really have daddy issues at the time. I didn't think about old men. I was attracted to beautiful people, beautiful men, beautiful women, and I felt like my virginity was stolen from some creepy old man, and I was forced into it. And if I didn't do it, I would have ended up homeless. It was a very complicated story. So that really started to deteriorate our relationship. I felt this immense guilt. I couldn't keep going on lying, and I didn't know how to keep going on with this relationship. And so we split up. I think she cheated on me. I don't really care. I know after a while I stopped performing because I had all of this hate inside for myself. And I was really embarrassed about myself for what happened, and I stopped being able to perform in bed during the last year or two. And I think she met somebody, and and tried to, and I was fine with that. We pretty much deteriorated for a while, so we split up. I started dating guys, to try something different. And it was weird. My first boyfriend was like, I work online. Let's do some videos online. I needed money because Sarah moved out and I had no money. And I thought I was going to get evicted again, or somebody was going to come knocking on my door for more. And so I was really scared. So I was trying everything I can to keep my head above water. And I worked with my first boyfriend on Yahoo Messenger online. Like, I'm literally 19 years old. It's like Yahoo chat days, and here I am, monetizing my body with my first boyfriend for guys online. I just did it. I quickly broke up with him though. He wanted to have sex, like anal sex right away, and I wasn't prepared for that. And after that, I knew in my heart, based off of if I was going to have a relationship with a guy, I knew at that point right away that if I tried to find someone that was like Sarah, who was extremely patient and was able to wait until I felt safe, then I would be able to have like a good time. But in the gay community, men want sex yesterday. So they don't want to wait a week before you put out. They don't want to wait 6-8 months, fucking for sure, okay, at all. And so what happened to me was it became a mission to find a man that is willing to date me while waiting 6 to 8 months before we have anal sex, or before I couldn't perform, like, and it was really embarrassing. Okay, really embarrassing. I mean, to be called a lot of really horrible things by people in the community for rumors to go around because I hook up with somebody, and they kind of pressured me into going a little bit further than I wanted to, and I felt bad. Like, I felt like, oh well, if I don't give him this, then he'll probably not want to come back. So, like, I kept pushing myself to give more and more and more and more, and I just never could perform. Like, I could never ever get an erection. Okay, like, ever. And it was like this vicious cycle because people, I could see it on their face that they were taking it personally, and like they would take that experience, and talk about it to people that I didn't even know, or to the whole community. They'd be like, yeah, I hooked up with Aaron last night. We couldn't even get it up. He's fucking impotent. Okay. I couldn't believe that, how cruel people could be. So I was just like, whatever. I had a really hard time, and it's really sad because a lot of people wanted to date me when I first came out. I was like new meat, cute, big dick. If I took pictures of myself, it was hard. It was hard, obviously, and I would lure these people in with all of these false images, because then you get to meet me, and I didn't have any explanations at that time as to like why I'm not able to perform. I didn't really know why, other than the fact that I might have ADD, or I used to say to I used to tell people that, and it's true. This is true. This is very true. But I used to tell people I want to wait because that feeling you get. I told so many guys this to stay with me. Like, I can't even tell you how many people. I used to tell them why I don't want to have sex right away is because if you wait to that moment that you can't wait anymore, and then you wait longer, it's amazing. Oh God. I don't even know. And I was basing that off of my first experience with Sarah, because we waited 8 months to have sex, and we loved each other by that point. And so we knew everything about each other. We felt safe. We knew what buttons to push, and it was better. Like, that was really, really, really amazing sex. And when I lost my virginity to a girl, it was magic, because we waited until we were both in love. And, all of the foreplay that we tried to do before didn't even come close to that moment. When you share that experience together, when you're both in love, when you both waited for as long as, well, I mean, I know that she waited a lot longer than she wanted to, but, and I didn't know how long it was going to take for me. It was a bit of a surprise for me that all of a sudden I felt this amazing connection and safe, and I just got a boner on my own. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to do something with this. And then it just happened. And then from there, we just had the most amazing sex ever. And so I thought I had to apply the same thing to guys, because at first, I thought, when I was still with Sarah, I thought that, oh, maybe I'm not getting an erection because I'm actually gay. No, I'm not, because the exact same thing happened to guys. No matter who I'm with, I have a really hard time getting an erection. So, unless I've got Viagra, which I do sometimes, chances are I'm not going to be performing very well. And so I thought, I'll have to come up with a story to explain to guys why I need to wait. And a lot of them just laughed at me. Like, a lot of them would go on a date with me and they'd want to fuck me that night. And I just wasn't interested. I was like, it's too personal. I don't want to have that, not comfortable. And I would never hear from them again. And that happened a lot. And I got so desperate for love, I just started, I started to get to the point where I had been through so many dates, like it was just like grade 9 all over again, except for now that I'm just going through the gay community and I'm getting more ass in the toilet seat, but I'm not actually getting it because like I'm just trying to get to know these people and they don't even want to do that. They just want to fuck me and move on. And so I tell them to move on. And when they do, they talk shit about me, which is really upsetting. And it was really, really embarrassing to hear people going around saying like, Aaron's fucking impotent. And I would like get, people would come up to me and literally ask me like, dude, can you get it up? And, I just kind of fell back into my skin even more. And I thought to myself, well, I'll just take whatever I can get, basically. And I ended up in a relationship, and he was patient. He had a son, he had a wife. He was bi, kind of, or gay, but he knew what it was like to be with a woman, I guess. And I guess the way that I am is sort of like a woman, like, I don't know. And he was so patient. Like, he was like, no, we're not going to pressure anything. He's like, I really, really like you. And I'm like, great, this is perfect. And I think I overlooked absolutely everything else in that relationship that ended up hurting me later, because he was like the first guy to, accept me not being able to give sex right away. And so I was like, let's do that. So I don't care what other problems. I overlooked everything else, and we dated for 3 years. We waited for like 6 months before we had sex, but then like I really did love him after 6 months, and we were in this trip in Mexico, and like everything was great. So, and then after that, sex was amazing. I felt safe, and everything like that. So it's really my biggest attraction, like what floats my boat, so to speak, is a feeling of safety and acceptance. And without those, I am soft and just unsure. But anyways, that relationship ended up pretty traumatically. It'll go in my book, but nicely, empathetically. And I ended up single again. I didn't want a relationship. I still couldn't perform. I ended up in this relationship with a cop, actually. Like, it wasn't like a boyfriend. He was actually a straight guy, straight cop. And he was the first person to make me realize, I think, that it was this feeling of safety that I needed, because I didn't love him. And there was something about him, the way that he made me feel, that allowed me to perform and to do what to really have amazing sex without love. And up until him, I thought for sure that it was like I needed to love somebody in order to have sex with them, or to be able to perform. And when I met him, he was a cop. As soon as I walked into his house, I was the only thing that mattered. And he treated me like the world revolved around me. Like, it was so intense. Like 3 to 4 hours I would spend there, it would just be like I would leave so giddy. And the first few times, like, I was so skeptical, I didn't perform at all. It took like, a couple months of playing around to realize that no, this guy really just enjoys me as a person, respects me, and I felt safe. And I really enjoyed that. And so I started to really try and figure things out a little bit more and be like, maybe this has to do with my sexual trauma, like perhaps it's not just my need to be in love, but maybe this feeling of safety is because I've been abused so much in my life and abandoned and neglected that what really floats my boat is just the attention and someone that is actually genuinely there to take care of you or to protect you. And so I was like, okay, interesting. A few years into being single, I applied back to school. There were also a few times after my first boyfriend that I monetized my body for sex again. And it started to build up around me, this idea that people were going to find out that I was a sex worker a couple times in my life when I needed it. And then that shame, oh my God, it was like just disabling. Because at the time, like, nobody thought nicely about sex workers. And I think, like, I told my ex, the one with the kid, at one point in our relationship that I had done sex work to survive before I met him. And he really, like, made me feel ashamed about it. And I think that was the first time that I thought to myself, oh shit, like, what if I'm not lovable because of that? And so that really started to build up. And the idea of this sexual trauma started to build up. And then I was thinking to myself, oh my God, like, these are all the reasons why I'm so ashamed when I need to feel safe and accepted. must be, right? It gets deeper. When I started university, I was forced into more sex work. And boy, did not want that at all. I was a sad hooker. And sad hookers don't make a lot of money. And I realized that pretty quick. So I had to put on this mask, change my name, change everything, and pretend that I was somebody that I wasn't, to get through the work that I was doing to pay for my university and my bills. And each time it destroyed me. I started to do it online, and somebody online was like, I can tell that you're not enjoying this. I don't think this is good for you. I want to help you get out of this situation. And so he ended up helping me a couple years through school without that. And I was able to get away from it. And then a whole bunch of shit happened to me. And he's still in my life, but he was exhausted by how much I needed to get through school. And I didn't even know how much architecture school was going to be until I started. I thought, it's like a degree like everybody else. No, it's not. It was the second most expensive tuition in the school, landscape architecture at Guelph. And on top of that, you have 3D model supplies. You have to get all the best markers. You have to get the best computer. You have to get a drafting table. You have to get all of these paper and supplies. And every year you just blow through shit, blow through it, where it was crazy. And then all of the field trips, and you had all of the, projects that we had to all be bound and like printed out professionally. It was crazy. Like, I could not keep up with the other people in my school. And if I didn't have the sugar daddies that I met online, or like the friends that I met, I should say, I hate calling them sugar daddies because they're really friends to me. But the friends that I met who helped me through school, I would not have made it because I would not have been able to do sex work the whole time because it was destroying me. And, it got to that point where I think so he helped me my first year at Western, first year at Guelph, second year of Guelph. And then after the second year, a whole bunch of shit happened. And he was just that limited with how much he could help me, and I ended up homeless and living in Toronto at a friend's. My friend from Toronto was like, "Come live with me for free," and I didn't have any money to pay for anything, and I had to start working the street in Toronto. At the same time, the serial killer is picking off people, and I'll never forget that. Like I didn't know he was out there. But, I was working the same areas. I'm also in landscaping. Like, I have no family. No one would have missed me. Like, I was the perfect, like, if he met me at the time, I would have been a victim for sure. And I would have probably ended up in some pot because, like, I give off that woe is me, I'm all alone, no one will miss me kind of vibe. And, yeah, like, I don't know. So besides that, I was working in Toronto on the street, and then I got a job at CIBC as an underwriter. So it wasn't long. It was just to kind of keep my head above the water. And then I was able to start working a real job, which took a really long time to get. And I was gonna see if I could get through the third year, and I was gonna take, I was gonna just do whatever I could, correspondence from home in Toronto. I was living in Toronto, and school was in Guelph, so I was just going to do everything I could to try and keep my job and stay in school. I had to lie a few times, hated it, and I did whatever I could to get through that year, but it was very hard. Almost didn't make it. By the end of that year, I thought, you know what? I think it's time to give up. So after my third year, I was planning on just staying at my full-time job at CIBC, and I was going to quit school, and it's just like, I don't know. Oh, fuck, I forgot. During that second year, in that second year when all that shit happened, I was dating somebody from my past who also raped me in my home, in my bedroom, with 4 roommates upstairs. Like I was in the basement, my bedroom. It lasted like 10 seconds. But yeah, I extremely traumatized from that. And it's really weird because I blamed myself a little bit, because at the time my relationship with sex was so self-hatred. I didn't love myself at all at the time, and I was attracting men that would tie me up or like put me in a vulnerable position, and I used to get off on that. I used to enjoy that that rape fantasy, and it was like the only relationship to sex that I knew, kind of. I mean, Sarah and I did not have that kind of relationship, but because of all of the men in my life that have just forced themselves onto me by that point, I developed this kind of relationship with men that enticed that scenario. And I invited guys that were into the BDSM, and we would talk about certain fantasies. But with this guy that I was dating, I was still, no, we're waiting 6 months before anal. You know, it's still personal to me. Like, it's still my choice. I was very, very clear about all of that. And, you know, he decided that he didn't want to wait. So that happened. Like, and that's right after that, I ended up homeless and started selling myself in the streets of Toronto. And it was like trying to get my degree. And I was like, I just put it in the back of my head. I'm just like, I can't think about this anymore. I'm just gonna try and get this, just gonna try and survive here. And my family video talks about what happened for me to stay in my 4th year. I'm not going to get into that here, but I did make it because somebody came out of nowhere on my GoFundMe account to help me. And I graduated. And then, you know, I was with this boyfriend at the time as well. Somebody that I met right before going into my 4th year. I started dating somebody. And then it was really good. It was a really loving relationship. And you know, 3 years into that, like so our first year was kind of hell, of course. We put a lot of stress on our relationship. Then we had to move to Ottawa, and I didn't get a job right away after graduation. And so I remember asking him if he would do Chatterbait with me online, because I had applied everywhere. I had applied to all the landscape architecture programs. I applied to even banks and floristry. I was like, I'm gonna get a job at anything I know how to do. I don't care. We just needed money right away. And it wasn't working. And then I got a job as a florist, and it still wasn't enough money. So I was like, okay, can we film stuff? I mean, like, it was really quick money for me when I was in school. I mean, there's 2 of us now, so we might be able to do really well. And we did. We did really, really well. We made like enough money to pay for the bills. And then I got a job at Stantec. And finally, I was able to make enough money with his income and my income, and we were fine. I closed down the Chatterbait site. I thought, this is fucking finally over. I'll never have to sell myself again. I was so happy. I was like, I finally have an amazing job that I love. And then, yeah, joke's on me. Joke's on me. So the following year, my ex had a family emergency. He became the primary caregiver for his grandmother, and he had to move away and quit his job and leave me on a 2-person budget with a 1-person income. And then I just did everything I possibly could to move. I was looking for another place. Like, I knew what was coming. I knew I couldn't sustain this for very long on my one income. I asked my job for a raise. I asked for, you know, my student loans started kicking in. Everything fell. And I knew that I couldn't afford any of that together. And so I was like, fuck, here I go again. You know, if I don't start selling myself again, I'm going to end up on the street. So I started doing it again. And then in August of 2018, I found all of this content of me online on Pornhub, of me and my boyfriend at the, like, working when I just graduated on Chatterbait. We did really well. I didn't think people were going to record our entire show and post it on Pornhub. I couldn't believe that. And it really fucked me up a lot. I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to hide this. Everyone's going to judge me. what if I lose my job? Like, I almost killed myself. I I thought it's over. There's no way I'm gonna be able to survive this. I downloaded all of them, and then I had them removed. And then I was looking at all over the internet, other places, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm everywhere. There's like these fucking videos everywhere. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, but at least they're good videos, right? Like they were really good videos, don't get me wrong. And I was like, okay, my life is ruined. Like, so I was like, okay, August, September, October, November, I fought everything to stay. I did everything I could. Ended up living at my grandmother's. That didn't go well in December. And then I ended up in my car, and I had to beg for my ex to come and live with. And I started living, but also like Corey and I had split up over this last year between all of my trauma, between his trauma, and like having to take care of his grandmother, and my anxiety with everything, and sort of just being abandoned like that. So we became extremely toxic to each other, and I had to beg him for a place to live because I had nowhere else to go. So I ended up moving in with him, even though we had just been really toxic to each other for really valid reasons. It really was not fair what happened to either of us. And I almost killed myself in February. And I made a GoFundMe account, I think again, or I don't know where, but somebody met me on a GoFundMe and reached out, sent some money, and was like, don't do this, don't do that. I'm here for you, and this and that. And I told him what happened to me, like a little bit more detail. And he just became this like big ray of light, I guess. And so from there, I was like, what can I do to survive? I have no income. I've had to take a leave from work to fix everything that just happened. I'm still employed, but I'm now fighting a loss. I decided to fight the lawsuit with the insurance company who declined my medical for everything that happened. And I was like, how am I going to get to the end of this lawsuit? So I thought, well, those videos had like 20,000 views on Pornhub. Everybody's got an OnlyFans account. I thought, you know what? Why not? Everybody's going to know. I thought, I can't hide from this anymore. I took 30 seconds of one of the clips and I posted it on Twitter, and it blew up. I hid from the computer for like 7 days. I didn't even look at my computer for 7 days. I was so scared of what was going to happen. And I went back on my Twitter like a week later, and just that one video, I don't even know how people found it, but like I blew up. I had like 7,000 followers. And I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe I have something that's worth selling. Maybe I should open up an OnlyFans account. So I did. And I just started to post everything. And I begged my boyfriend to help me film some stuff. Ex-boyfriend, he was my ex at the time. I begged him to help me make content so that I could afford to get my vet bills and my car insurance paid and things like that. And he did. He was very reluctant. He didn't want to be a part of that either, but he did. He wore a mask in privacy, but like he didn't want to be a part of that. And I felt like, really guilty about that as well, because I didn't want to do it either. And it was like our only means of survival. And I did well. And I got really well known. And a lot of people started to look at me differently. Even people that were really cruel to me in my life before were like coming up to me and being like, oh my God, Aaron, I love you. You're so amazing. Where's that joint? And it's like, no, I remember what you did to me, but thank you. And I kind of grew a little bit to love myself. I was like, you know what? This isn't that bad. Now that there's like 20,000 people following me, I have finally earned the respect of people like me, if that makes sense. So my whole life I was trying to be someone that I wasn't because I was ashamed of my past. I was ashamed of the sex work. I was ashamed of the sexual assault, you know, and I didn't want people to know, so I pretended to be someone that didn't have to do any of that stuff. And it still comes out, like people figure it out, or people can tell that you're different. But when you are meeting people that are like you don't have to pretend. And, you know, when you're meeting other people online who have the same background as you, some of them were also sexually assaulted. Some of them were, you know, forced into sex work, you know, and it's interesting because like, not everybody grows up and thinks, oh, hey, I'm going to be a porn star. And so it's like, you know, you wonder where it comes from. Well, it's usually out of our control. You know, it's not often that we jump into it and have no reason for it. It's usually because of something. And I think I finally started to love myself because I found people that I loved that were like me, and they loved me. And I was like, wow, I guess I'm lovable, which is really cool. Now, what changes this, because self-love has been a really big roller coaster for me, is that I forgot to mention that in university, I found out that I was actually autistic, and my issues with sex go beyond the sexual assault, beyond my attention deficit, because I'm not just distracted. So I don't like, even though I said to everybody in my past, like, oh yeah, it's just hard for me to stay focused, it does go well beyond that. And when I found out that I was autistic, it really changed a lot. It really, really, really explained a lot of the problems that I have in sex. And that feeling of safety, or, you know, just the idea of making love literally, and that you have to be in love to make love, you know. And for me with my autism, you know, my body, for example, is more sensitive than anything else. So like I have really heightened senses, and it plays a huge role when I'm having sex. Whether it is something that catches my eye, because my eyes are always catching too many things in the room, or if there are, you know, it also makes me really vulnerable because there's too many senses when I'm having sex that are getting stimulated. So I get overstimulated. So I do feel vulnerable in those situations. So I do want to feel safe with somebody. And of course, just the other traumas as well play into that as well. So it's like now, after I left my ex, I was getting all of this attention from all these people that wanted to have sex and have a relationship and da 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 da. And I was like, whoa, you know, now that I'm a porn star and everybody knows my name, everybody wants to date me. Again, it's like kind of like grade 9 going through everybody again. And I started to let people in again, but only to disappoint them, because I still can't perform until I feel safe and all these things. And so I started to talk about it. And it just pushed people more away. So when I started telling people about my autism, the people in the gay community pushed me away. When I started to talk about my sexual trauma, people pushed me away. When I started to talk about, you know, this idea of me needing to feel safe, people were like, they just didn't have time for it, you know. And if I didn't have Viagra, I couldn't perform. And I would have sex with these people, and I'd put Viagra on, and I'd feel like it was sex work all over again, because I'm not enjoying it, because I'm forcing it, because if I don't force it, they'll want nothing to do with me because everybody wants to have sex right away. And if I don't have sex right away, then it's the relationship doesn't even continue and they ghost me. Or I do put Viagra in me and I force it, and then I'm feeling like it's just like sex work all over again. I'm just doing things for other people and not doing anything for myself. And so after these, I felt really, really, really damaged. And so I thought, okay, well, you know what? I'm only going to film with people. That's it. Because, you know, I've got this industry, this production company going that's doing a little bit well. It's my survival. It's my plan B, basically. You know, I thought to myself, well, if I can't get anything for me out of it, other, like if I can film it and we can create a great video, then that's pretty much enough for me to do a good performance. Like I'm not getting nothing if I film something. So I became that. I became a guy that right now I don't hook up with people unless it's for film, because I don't get anything out of it unless I'm in love. And people don't understand that about me. And I don't even really understand that. Like I wish I did. And my experience with the gay community, I've been out now for like 16 years. I still consider myself bisexual. I really, really, really miss my relationship with Sarah. There was a certain maternal aspect to that relationship that I prefer much more over all of the sex that I've had with men. And I also am moving more towards like the female to male. I'm thinking, you know, maybe that is something that would be the most comforting for me. Like I do love a physical appearance, but I love, you know, I really do love a maternal instinct. And I'm also trans is something that is really inspiring to me these days, you know, but I also do really like the idea of being with a woman again. So I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I'm gay. I don't know if I ever was gay. I don't, you know, I just came out because it was easier to just say that you're gay and to just kind of jump on that wave. And do it, I guess. I've committed to it for so long, and to have been talked so poorly about by the entire community for my autism, my sexual assaults, for my traumas, for my impotency. You know, people call me psycho. It's really crazy how many things I've heard, and it's like it's not my fault that I'm like this. You know how much I would love to have like a happy mom and dad that could support me and like helped me stay safe and not have all of the problems that I have, but I don't. And a lot of people think I'm too much. And anyways, this is the part one, and again, this is going to just talk about my sexual trauma, and it has to talk about how it goes into my performance and all of my other performance issues, and why I've been impotent my entire life, basically. You know, it's crazy. And I'm tired of hiding from it. I'm like, you know what? This is who I am. These are the problems that I have. This is how it's portrayed in the gay community. This is how people talk about me. And I'm not the only one that has problems in performance. So like I know that. And you know, this is going to be one of the biggest preludes I have to an entire video of my experience being gay. And we'll get to that. But there's going to be a lot of talk in here, so I'm sure some of you might listen to some of that. Who knows? I don't know.